You remember the wallpaper, a faded yellow, small blue flowers, peeling slightly near the corner by the window. You remember your mother's hand on your shoulder, the smell of something cooking down the hall, the exact pitch of a dog barking outside. You were 3 years old. You would swear to this memory in a court of law, and there is a good chance none of it actually happened the way you think it did. Some of it may not have happened at all. This isn't a trick of a bad memory. It's not about forgetting. It's about something stranger, something your brain does to every single memory you own, every day, without asking your permission. Start with the wallpaper. Picture it again. Notice how easy that was. Your brain didn't retrieve that image. It built it on the spot, using scraps of things you've seen since, photographs you've been shown, stories your mother told at dinner over the years. Memory doesn't work like a filing cabinet, where a moment sits untouched until you pull it out. It works more like a rumor passed through a crowded room. Each time you remember something, you're not replaying it. You're rewriting it, then storing the rewrite as the new original. Do this enough times, across enough years, and the memory you're left with can end up several drafts removed from anything that actually happened in that room. Here's where it gets stranger. In the 1990s, a psychologist named Elizabeth Loftus ran an experiment that should unsettle you more than it does. She and her team approached adult participants and, with the help of family members, presented them with 4 childhood stories. 3 were true. 1 was completely fabricated, a memory of being lost in a shopping mall around the age of 5, crying, eventually rescued by an elderly stranger. It never happened. And yet, by the end of the study, roughly a quarter of participants said they remembered it. Some added details the researchers never gave them: the color of the stranger's jacket, the panic in their chest. One man insisted he could still picture the mall's ceiling tiles. Sit with that for a second. These weren't gullible people or people with poor memories. They were ordinary adults, confidently describing in vivid sensory detail something that simply did not occur. Your brain, it turns out, cannot always tell the difference between a memory it lived and a memory it was handed. Loftus would go on to repeat versions of this experiment for decades, planting memories of getting sick on strawberry ice cream, of nearly drowning as a child and being saved by a lifeguard, of spilling punch at a wedding. Every version worked on some fraction of participants. The mechanism was never the story. It was the suggestion, repeated with enough confidence, in the right emotional context, at the right age of the memory being targeted. So why does it do this? Why would evolution build a memory system this unreliable? Because accuracy was never the goal. Survival was. Your ancestors didn't need a perfect archive of every day they lived. They needed a fast, flexible summary they could use to make quick decisions. Was that berry bush safe last time? Did that river rise suddenly before? A brain that stored every detail with photographic precision would be slower, heavier, more expensive to run. So instead, your brain evolved to keep the gist and discard the rest, then reconstruct the missing pieces later, using whatever context is available at the moment you remember. Most of the time, that reconstruction is close enough. Occasionally, it invents a shopping mall that never existed. But here's the detail that makes this even harder to accept. Even if you could somehow prove that early memory was accurate, there's a decent chance you couldn't have formed it in the first place. Try to reach further back, before the wallpaper, before age 2, before age 1, nothing. Not haziness, not fog, just a wall. Nearly every adult hits this same wall around the same age, give or take a year, regardless of culture, regardless of how remarkable or ordinary those years actually were. Scientists call it infantile amnesia, and for most of the 20th century, nobody could fully explain why it happens, since infants are clearly learning constantly during that window. They recognize faces. They learn language, an entire grammar system, in a couple of years, faster than any adult ever could. Something is clearly being stored. So where does it go? A researcher named Carolyn Roby Collier ran a now-famous series of studies using infants in a mobile hanging above a crib, connected by a ribbon to the baby's ankle. Kick, and the mobile moves. Infants as young as 2 or 3 months old learned this connection within minutes, and remarkably, they remembered it, kicking the moment they were placed back under a similar mobile days or even weeks later. In some versions of the study, infants retained the memory for over a month, longer than researchers had assumed possible for a brain that young. So the memory existed. It was retrievable, at least briefly, which means the wall you hit as an adult isn't a storage problem. Somewhere along the way, that information becomes unreachable, even though on some level it was learned and held on to, at least for a while. That single fact should already be reshaping how you think about your own childhood. But the twist underneath it is stranger still. More recently, a neuroscientist named Sheena Jocelyn proposed a reason for this wall that has nothing to do with forgetting and everything to do with growth. During early childhood, your hippocampus, the brain region responsible for filing new experiences into long-term memory, is producing new neurons at an extraordinary rate. This process, called neurogenesis, is essential. It's how a young brain rapidly builds the neural architecture it will use for the rest of its life. But there's a cost. Jocelyn's research, much of it originally done with mice, whose neurogenesis rates could be directly manipulated, suggests that as new neurons integrate into existing circuits, they can disrupt or overwrite the connections holding older memories together. When her team artificially boosted neurogenesis in adult mice, whose neuron production had already slowed, those mice began forgetting things they'd previously learned at a rate that matched what young, rapidly growing brains experience naturally. In other words, the very process that makes a toddler's brain so remarkably good at learning may be the same process quietly erasing what it just learned. Your brain wasn't broken during those years. It was under construction, and the scaffolding came down, along with some of what it was holding up. You've done this today, by the way, without noticing. Someone asked you about something from years ago, and you answered instantly, confidently, filling in details you didn't actually check. That's not a flaw specific to you. That's the system working exactly as designed, and it keeps working long after childhood ends. A psychologist named Carol Peterson spent years tracking children's memories longitudinally, interviewing the same kids repeatedly over time about events from their early years, then checking those memories against what they had reported earlier and against their parents' accounts. She found something researchers hadn't fully appreciated before. Even memories from age 4 or 5, memories children could describe in rich, confident detail at age 7, were often gone entirely by adolescence, replaced by nothing, not even a fuzzy trace. Not distorted, erased. Meanwhile, other memories quietly shifted shape year after year, gaining details that hadn't been there in the earlier interview, details that felt, to the child, exactly as real as the ones that had actually happened. Some children, when shown their own earlier accounts years later, insisted the transcripts were wrong, that the researchers must have mixed up their file with someone else's. Think about what that means for the story you tell about who you are, your personality, your fears, the reasons you give for why you're guarded or trusting or anxious in certain situations. So much of that narrative rests on a foundation of memories that have been quietly renovated, some of them entirely invented, without a single alarm going off to warn you. The version of your childhood living in your head right now isn't a record. It's closer to the latest edition of a manuscript that's been revised so many times. The original draft no longer exists anywhere to check it against. This isn't a design flaw to be anxious about. It's closer to a kind of mercy. A brain that clung to every raw, unedited moment of childhood, every scraped knee, every small humiliation, every moment of fear, in perfect unaltered detail, might struggle to move past any of it. Reconstruction lets you soften what needs softening and sharpen what still serves you. The cost is precision. The benefit is that you get to keep living instead of replaying. Somewhere in that trade-off is the reason you can think about a painful year from your childhood today and feel something closer to distance than devastation. The memory changed because you needed it to. Consider what this means for the family stories you've heard 100 times, the ones retold at holidays until everyone at the table can recite them in unison. Every retelling is another draft. Every family gathering is, in a very real sense, a small collaborative act of rewriting history, and the people doing it don't know they're doing it. Someone remembers a detail slightly differently this year. Nobody corrects it because nobody notices, because their own memory of the story has already shifted to match the version told most recently and most confidently. Ask any two siblings to describe the same childhood event separately, without comparing notes first, and you'll often get two accounts that share a skeleton, but disagree on almost everything hanging off it. The weather, who said what, who was even in the room. Neither sibling is lying. Both are reporting, in good faith, whatever their brain most recently assembled and filed as true. This is also why old photographs feel so strange to look at sometimes. Why a picture from age 4 can feel like it belongs to a stranger, while a picture from age 8 feels unmistakably like you. Somewhere in that gap sits the shift from a period your brain was still restructuring itself to store long-term memories reliably, to a period where the architecture had mostly settled and the story finally started sticking. So the next time you catch yourself certain about some small, vivid detail from your early years, the yellow wallpaper, the dog barking outside, the exact words someone said to you at 5 years old, hold that certainty a little more loosely. Not because you're wrong to trust your own mind, because your mind was never built to give you a recording. It was built to give you a usable story, rebuilt fresh every time you ask for it, out of whatever pieces happen to be lying around. That wallpaper you can still see so clearly, the one you'd swear to. It may be real. It may be borrowed from a photograph you saw years later, or a story told so many times at the dinner table that it hardened into something that feels like your own experience. It may be nothing at all, a room your brain built for you because a room needed to be there, and you asked to see it one time too many.